Hello, hello. Looks like I'm live. Welcome back to the Advent of Syntran 2024. Today is day 4. Feels weird to say 2024 day 4. It's like, that can't be right. I'm just saying 4 a bunch of times. Nope, it's really day 4. I haven't seen any spoilers about today's puzzle. I'm a little bit worried that it might blow me away. I'm worried that this puzzle might be a silent killer. 4. Alright, I should have my input. Let's see what that's all about. Christmas. Xmas. Didn't we have an Xmas problem last year with a bunch of letters X, M, A, and S? It smacks of something familiar. I'm also going to need some test input. And let's check out what this puzzle is about. So sometimes it's hard to tell what the test input is. I'm pretty sure it's this, the actual word search. And I've got some new lines. I definitely have a copy-paste issue. Should this be 10 lines long? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think I got all of that. And I should be able to run my template program and just load the test input already. Well, that's not what I meant to do. I tried to run test input as a syntran program, but that's not a syntran script. That's just a text file. Main, that's what I want to run, and that's my test input. So that works. It works every day. As long as I save the test input, that should always work. If you don't have a file, I don't know what happens. I think you get some sort of error. Runtime error message if your file doesn't exist. How does that work? Right, I'm editing yesterday. So let's edit today. That's not ideal. Yeah, it's just end of file immediately. It treats a non-existent file like an empty file. That could be improved. Let's make a note of that. I think I might already have a note of that. Open, rethink open. Read mode should check if file exists. Yeah, because it should also work for writing files. You can open a file to read and you can open a file to write. And it's just the same open function. There's no read mode or write mode. So in write mode, it's pretty normal to write to a file that doesn't exist yet. So for read mode, there's nothing that checks if the file exists. Yep, it's already on the to-do list. Okay, so this is some kind of word search. Horizontal, vertical, diagonal, or backwards. Okay, it's literally a word search. I don't know what's coming up in part 2. There might be something tricky there, but this sounds kind of straightforward. I think this is the first 2-dimensional problem this year. Everything so far has been essentially 1-dimensional or some kind of string processing problem. This is the first grid problem on a 2-dimensional array. So pretty much every language has this problem, but you have to think about, do you want to have a vector of strings where each line is one string within your vector? Or do you want to have a 2-dimensional array of characters? And syntran is tricky because there's not even a character type. if you want to use something like a character type, you just have to use strings of length 1. So I think that's what I'm going to do. It's going to be easier to index that way consistently. So we'll be able to find words going up and down and left to right just as easily. If you had a vector of strings, you could find words within a line pretty easily, but it would be kind of weird to index your vector and the string in a way that you can find words going up and down or diagonally. So I think a rank 2 array of characters is going to be the right way to approach this. So, I think I want to use count line finally. And I forget how to rewind in Syntran. I think you can't rewind, you just have to close and reopen the file. So I want to open it. Can I count lines without opening it? What does count line take? It takes a file name, and then that automatically opens. Okay, so I don't have to close and reopen. It's going to be a little bit weird. I'm going to read this in a loop, and then I'm going to get the length of the string in the loop, and I'll do it repeatedly, so that might not be ideal, but it'll work. So the number of lines, or the size of my array in the y dimension, is going to be the line count of the file name. So the size of this array in the x direction, or the horizontal direction, is going to be the length of the string. Yeah, I do have to do this before the loop, because I need to pre-allocate my array. So close it. We read the first line, then we close it, and then we open it again so that we can reread the first line in the loop. And I'm also going to allocate. First I want to know, did I get the size right? I'll print it as an array so that I don't have to have like multiple separators. Printing an array just puts the delimiters in for you. That did not work. One of these returns an I64, the other one returns an I32. Do I have this built in? I do not have that built in. So let's just assume that you never have a string longer than 2 billion characters. I think that's a safe assumption. And don't redeclare that. Okay, we have a 10 by 10 array. Well, we don't have the array yet, but we know the size is going to be 10 by 10. And now we can allocate that. It's going to be spaces initially, and then of size nx by ny. So this is like Rust array initialization. In Rust, you can allocate a rank 1 vector like this. And then this is a vector of all zeros, which is nx zeros long. So this is what's in the array, and this is the length of the array. In syntran, I extend this in what I think is a natural way by just having comma delimited sizes or extents along each dimension. So this is a rank 2 array, and it has nx in one dimension and ny in the other dimension, and then it's an array of all spaces. You could just do an empty string, because these are strings, they're not just characters of a fixed length, but they're going to be one character later. Doesn't really matter what I initialize it to, because I'm going to reset it as I load this. And then we're going to read the line, and I couldn't do let f here because it was in the same scope as this, but this string is actually shadowing this string. They're at different scopes. Or you could just not declare it and then they wouldn't be shadowing. Doesn't really matter either way. I just need to load this, and string is going to be a temporary variable, which isn't really going to be used for anything else later. So it doesn't matter if I shadow or not. Yeah, and then we're going to pull out each character one at a time. And then chars ix iy is going to be string ix. I hope this prints in a readable way. Cool. Is that the right word search? MMMSXX, MMMSXX, so that part of the first row seems correct. And then if we look at like the last column, we have XMAS, XMAS. I think I loaded that correctly. Okay, now we have to search for words. So we're going to iterate through the whole array again. Like this, but you know, we had to load it first. You have to load the whole thing first, and then you can search for things. If you load row 1 and then start searching for words going down in row 2 before you've loaded row 2, that's going to be a problem. So, yeah, don't do that. This is a 2-dimensional loop. I like to only, I did not mean to zoom in like that. That happens when I double hit control. Sometimes I accidentally bump that. Yes, so this is a 2-dimensional loop. Conceptually, I like to think of this as one loop, so I only indent once. Oftentimes I even have a triple loop to like process voxels in 3D. So that's a pretty standard idiom that I use without unnecessary indentation. Yeah, so we're gonna want to build up a string. And we're going to want to search in all 4 directions. I'm thinking I could copy and paste this from a previous year, because I know I do cardinal directions. Oh, we have diagonal directions too. So I don't know if I've ever actually done this with diagonal directions. Usually in Advent code, like a lot of the times they'll tell you like look up, down, left, and right, but don't go diagonally. Today, pretty sure they said, yeah, diagonal. We can go diagonal. Yes, so we're going to have 4 more directions than we usually have. And I don't know if I've programmed this for Advent of Code before. So we're going to have 8 directions, the 4 cardinal ones, and then 4 diagonal ones. That's 8 total. And then our dimensions are going to be the x direction. That's not the x direction. It doesn't really matter what order I put these in. So the x direction, the negative x direction, and let's get that stuff aligned. Then we're going to have the y direction. Preemptively align that, and then the negative y direction. Then we're going to have the 4 diagonal directions. So it's going to be like this, except we're going to have some 1s in here. Now I have some duplicates. I have 1, 1. I have that twice, so I need to make something negative here. Are those unique? No. Let's make that negative. Okay. It really doesn't matter what order you put these in. And then I need to declare the size of this array. So just like this, where we had a uniform array where it's all spaces, this is going to be an explicit array where we explicitly list all the values. They're not just all one value, but then we still have to specify the size after a semicolon. So this is going to be size 2 by enders. I don't know how I want to write this to make the size obvious. You can't have trailing commas. I think I probably want to allow trailing commas. Can I have this? I think this is not allowed. What am I doing? Hit some kind of weird tmux button. Trailing commas, not good. I think I want to allow that. But that is going to be so low on my list of priorities. Just want to make sure these last 4 are unique. So we have positive, positive, negative, positive. Let's do this in like the binary order. Now, if you think of these as 2 bits, if you think of the signs as 2 bits in a binary number, it's like they're going up in an order. It's kind of an arbitrary way to think about it, but that works for me. All 4 of those are unique now, and all 8 of these are unique, actually. So, from a starting position at ix comma iy, we're going to look in all 8 of those directions and see if we have the word xmas going there. So we're going to have a loop within this too. And we're going to loop up to the length of xmas, or up to nx mass, not nx max. This is just going to be I. I was thinking maybe IL for length, because we're looping up to the length of a string. But I haven't used just I yet, so let's finally use I. Why not? But a lot of these braces are unnecessary. because they only contain a single statement, which is just another for loop. But at some of these, I might like add up a sum afterwards. So I'm not really sure where I'll need that yet. And then, so we're going to start at ix, iy, and look in a certain direction, offset by an amount I from the original position. So we're going to get local coordinates ixl and ix or iyl. Let's just get the x one first. So it's going to be ix plus the direction 0. 0, the first index means x or y, so 0 means x. And then id is the thing that's iterating over the directions. D stands for direction. And we're going to multiply that by I. So at the first step, or at the 0th step, IXL is just going to be IX. So like if we're iterating over this and we're looking at strings starting here, we're going to start on the X, and then we're going to march in direction ID. I thought I was going to have to allocate a candidate string, but I don't have to do that. I can actually just compare character by character. So that's IX, and then we're going to do some bounds checking in a second here. So this is going to be the Y coordinate. It's going to be the initial Y coordinate. This is going to be 1, not 0. And then if the characters match, we're good. But I want to do bounds checking first. So if IXL is less than 0 or greater than NX, then we could continue to the next loop iteration. But if this one overflows, the next one is definitely going to overflow. So we can actually just break at this point. And then we're going to have a similar, and that's going to break out of this loop, but it will still continue in the direction loop and continue in these loops. So we want a similar bound check for Y. Greater than, I think we should check greater than or equal, because that's the way that 0-based indexing works. If you're equal to the length, it's out of bounds already. And then we can see if the character matches. If it does match, we can keep searching. If it doesn't match, we can actually also break out of this loop. I was thinking maybe continue, but yeah, we're also going to break. So these are actually bounds checks. And then that's what we're going to compare it to. But let's start with chars on the left side. IXL, IYL. If it's not equal, then we're going to break. So if it's not equal to the string that we're searching for, and this index is going to be I, because that's what this loop is going over. If they don't match, then we can break because it's not matching the string that we're searching for. And finally, if we get to this point, I think we just want to know the total number of words that match this string, then we can increment the answer. Hey, new joker, welcome to the stream. Yep, I'm on the East Coast here, so I do not like to stay up until midnight and work on these the second that they're released. I'm thinking I might do that on Friday if I'm not already burned out at that point. I might be burned out, and then I won't even feel like staying up even though it's Friday and I can sleep in on the weekend. Ooh, 249. That's, oh, okay. We don't want to increment until we get to the end of this loop, but then that's going to get hit every time it breaks. So I do want to put it here, but I want to only do this if we're at the length of the string. So if I equals the length of the string that we're searching for minus 1, then we can increment. This is essentially it. I think this is the answer. Doesn't make sense that it's an odd number. That's not good. But I think this is like, oh, because we get like partial matches. If we find the x, we increment it by 1. If we find xm, we increment it twice. Yeah, so this is like the number of matches that we find multiplied by the length of each match. And this should fix that. 18, I think that's right for the sample. 18. Makes sense. Oh yeah, you're in the West Coast. I think West Coast would be pretty good for me. Come on, Kelly. You can't be on my desk. If I were there, I would at least do the first week. After the first week, I might even think that 9 p.m. is too late to be working on things that are challenging. I guess like, would it be like Hawaii or Australia or East Asia? Those are probably the best places to do Advent of Code. Then you get like the whole day at a reasonable hour to work on this. Okay, I think I have a correct algorithm. Let's run it on the real input. Seems reasonable. Okay, part 1. Gold stars. Let's see if I can get the second one. Shaped, they have to go diagonally. So these can be going in any direction too. Can they? Hey, Matrix Craft, welcome to the stream. Are you guys also working on Advent of Code? Alphabet mass in X shape. So what is going on here? Cal, come on. You can't be up here. Ah, man. Come on. She's bumping all kinds of keys. Okay, so this one is going diagonally. MAS. Okay. So when they say X, I think they mean it has to be going diagonally. But this one is kind of sideways, like this has the M's on the left side. These ones have the M's on the bottom. So it can still be rotated in any way. And I think there are only 4 permutations for that. So that might be something where I just hard code all 4 of the possible rotation permutations rather than doing like matrix multiplication to automatically generate all 4 rotations. Okay. I think that's doable. So now instead of searching for a linear pattern, now we're searching for a 2D pattern within a 2D pattern. This is like convolution. If you know anything about image processing. Is this also used in machine learning? Don't they have convolution in machine learning? I don't know if it's the same kind of convolution as in image processing, though. You're like moving a smaller 2-dimensional kernel. They call it a kernel. I don't know why. You're moving that kernel over a larger image, and you're adding stuff up depending on how those 2 grids line up with each other. So we're doing like a kernel convolution search. It sounds complicated, but that's the way I'm conceptualizing this. like if you want to do a Gaussian blur, you take a grid and then you blur stuff within that grid and you move it over the image. And you blur things by like adding up everything within the kernel and averaging it. At least that's one way to blur. That's like a square blur. I think there are also spherical blurs, but actually those are just different kernels. So I think it's still basically the same idea. I think that should work. Yeah, day 4 is going pretty good for me. If you look at my time, I'm not really moving that fast, but this is a pretty standard speed for me. How did you do day 4 already? No real issue outside of overthinking. I think day 2 was the one that posed a danger of overthinking, and fortunately I aborted pretty quickly. What was day 2? Yeah, part 1 was straightforward. Part 2 with the dampening, I just did a brute force where I attempted removing each individual element out of these vectors and then seeing if the sequence with that thing removed was safe. For about 5 minutes, I thought of doing something more clever, but before I even ran my code, I looked at it and I was like, no, that's not going to work. You know what? It's day 2. I can probably just brute force this without having code that takes an hour to run. So I didn't waste too much time overthinking that, but I can see how that's a problem. Yeah. Today, I guess I could have overthought this by trying to do some crazy rotation stuff, but I'm just going to hard code all 4 of the permutations because there are only 4 different ways that you can rotate this. It's nice that it has a symmetry plane and you don't have like a reflection of this that's different than the original kernel. I'm going to call this the kernel, by the way, in case that's not clear. So we only have 4 permutations. If there were like 8 with reflections, I would probably still hard code it, but it's nice that we don't have to hard code as many things. So let's have some kernels. Let's set those up. Let's clean up some of the logging maybe, and then copy part 1 to part 2. Is that all that I log? Okay. That's a nice clean part 1. I think I forgot to do this yesterday. Okay, never mind. Just going back into some previous days to fix that part of the log. All right, now let's copy part 1 and paste that to become part 2. So this one is now part 2. And let's uncomment the call to that and then log that answer specifically. Let's go back to the test input, not the real input. Printed out the X shape onto my console and then stared at it for a minute and had a duh moment. Oh, yeah. I don't know if like you suddenly saw the symmetry or you suddenly saw something else. Easier this year compared to last year? I felt like last year, day 5 was where it got hard. So we're not on day 5 yet. I'm not gonna declare that until tomorrow. I don't really remember the first 4 days of last year. I just remember that 5 suddenly got difficult for me, at least. Oh, an obvious simple solution. If you have anything better than my idea, don't spoil it. But maybe you can tell me after I get this implemented. Okay, let's have some kernels. Just going to call them K0 through K3. So this is going to be It's MAS, right? Without the X, because it's X. It's mass in the shape of X. Until one of you commented that, I didn't really get it. But we're gonna have a dot. We're gonna pretend this is regex, so dot can be any character. This would be S, I think. This is a dot, A in the middle, dot, M. We're gonna do the sideways one. Dot S. So this is M's on the left side. We're also going to have copies of this with M's on the top, M's on the right side, and M's on the bottom. Those are going to be our 4 search kernels. And then the size of this array is 3 by 3. What lang is syntran? Syntran is my programming language. This is an interpreter that I made. It's pretty poorly implemented. But if you want to play with this, there's something called the Syntran Explorer, where you can run this in your browser without installing anything. So you can say matrix craft. Let me be case sensitive here. Matrix craft was here. Yeah. So you can look at some of these samples. There's hello world, and then there's moderately more complex stuff with for loops. So you can check that out if you're interested. I actually don't have my chat. I need a better way to send things in my own chat. I have an other computer, but like I can't really copy and paste onto my other computer. Did I get this one correct? It's A in the middle, and then M's and S's in the corners. That part seems correct. I could have just copied and pasted this. Maybe that would have been easier. But we're going to have 3 others that we can't copy and paste. So it's good to practice. 1, 2, 3, 4. Got some copies of that. So now K1, K2, K3. Yeah, I'm just hard coding all of these. So the A stays the same. The dots also stay the same. The only things that are going to change are the corners. So we had left side. We'll have top side M's. Then we'll have right side M's. I can make my life easier here. Just jump to these. And then bottom side M's. Okay, I think those are all 4 kernels. Left, top, right, bottom. Sort of went with a clockwise rotation there. If I had thought about this more deliberately, I would have made them rotate counterclockwise, but it really doesn't matter. Because counterclockwise is the typical positive rotation direction. So let's see if I just typed those correctly and if that's even valid syntran, because even though I made this language, sometimes I forget how to write code in it. So let's say kernels. The syntax of syntran might look vaguely similar to Rust, like you use let. You kind of have similar keywords and type identifiers, but this is actually implemented in Fortran. It looks nothing like Fortran. It has some similar array features to Fortran, but it doesn't look similar to Fortran, and in its implementation, it really has nothing to do with Rust, even though it superficially looks kind of similar to Rust. Okay, so that is valid syntran, apparently. I think these look okay. Now I have to do the hard part, which is actually searching for this stuff. So I'm going to have to see, we're going to keep these loops the same. And then we're going to start from position ix, iy. And instead of comparing it to a string, we're going to compare it to this two-dimensional kernel. And we have 4 of them. So I think I need a function. Yeah, I'm going to need a messy function with a bunch of arguments. I'm going to call it a subgrid instead of a substring. I don't know what to call this. If our current subgrid matches any of the 4 rotated search kernels. Don't. What is, oh yeah, what are these emojis? Meat spies? Meat SPIs? I have no idea what's going on in chat. Actually, instead of having K0, K1, K2, K3, I think I want to have a rank 3 array. So I'm going to combine these into one big array. It's going to be 3 by 3 by 4. Yeah. Should it be 4 by 3 by 3? I think I'd rather have it be 3 by 3 by 4, because then I don't have to like permute things or transpose things within what I have so far. So let's add some commas. And then delete some stuff. And then the size is going to be 3 by 3 by 4. I'm going to call it KS. It's the kernels plural, so it ends in an S, and we don't want to have a comma there. I should be able to print it pretty easily. Okay, it looks pretty much the same, but what I do to print rank 3 arrays is I just put an extra new line. And then if you have a rank 4 array, you'll get like a double new line at some point to delimit those ranks. So this thing has a size. Search kernel size. It's going to be 3 by 3. So these magic numbers are going to have names now. It's the number of kernel characters in the X direction and the number of kernel characters in the Y direction. That's what that stands for. So this is going to be nkx by nky by 4. Let's not have a magic number for that one either. I was thinking of doing this with a function and then like calling the function for like, do like search chars, and you would also need to know where to search from. So I was thinking of doing something like this before I combined these all into one array. But if I combine them all into one array, then I can do this with a loop. I don't have like indices implicit in the name of the variable. And then I think I can just delete most of this stuff. I think Joker saw something like me. Oh. suddenly saw an obvious, I guess Matrix Craft also sees a better solution than what I have. That's okay. I'm pretty sure this will work without too much difficulty. The nice thing about syntran is it's supposed to make it relatively easy to work with multi-rank arrays like matrices and rank 3 arrays. So these grid problems are perfect for syntran. So we're going to loop through each of those kernel rotations. Iterate over 4 possible rotations. You see something else. Yeah, and then, so like the first search we had I. We're doing a linear search for a string, so we just had I. Now we're going to have a 2D search within this greater 2D loop. So we're going to have another double for loop. A lot of nested loops. I'm going to have like at least 5 nested for loops at the end of this. That could be a problem if you're dealing with big data, but hopefully this is not so big that it causes a performance issue. 5, yeah. I have 3 already, and I'm about to add 2 more. Maybe 6. I haven't thought that far. So we're going to have a sub-grid search in the X direction and one in the Y direction. Actually, let's put these in this order because it's going to perform better if we index memory in that order. Yeah, and then we just check if the characters match. So come on, where was it? It's going to be similar to this from the 1D search. How to break a 3D world using 6D logic. I like that. Oh, why is my chat not displaying? Let me try refreshing OBS real quick. If I just switch back to scene, that reloads, but well, obviously it doesn't show your comments from it. It's not that I broke it, it's just it hasn't been working for the entire 50-minute stream. Your new comment didn't show up. What if I say something? Shouldn't make a difference. But I don't know if you got that comment in before or after I refreshed. It must have been after, but it's still not working. Can I mess with my browser source? Like, did the URL change? If I go here, like, this is my chat. I don't know why this doesn't work. I know there are more complicated third-party things that you can use. Yeah, I'm using a browser source. There's a built-in dock. I kind of tried that too. I don't remember what my issue was with it. I just didn't like it for some reason. Let's try adding the dock. Chat. Yeah, because then it takes up space on my monitor, but at least it shows up. So we're gonna let that work for now. And then does it go to the bottom? Oh yeah, see, now I minimize OBS and the chat minimizes too. So I don't have a second monitor. I can just, it uses cookies. Oh yeah, it's probably a cookie issue. Maybe I have to log in with Firefox. I really don't want to do that either. I can make this work. I can just drag OBS into the corner, and then you don't see very much of it. Can't click there. All right. OBS is secret. And then I already have a solution for this. Nope, not that. I can do always on top. I think that's on top now. Yep, I can click here. And yeah, the text size is going to be a bit of an issue. Oh, I can't drag it further to the right though. See how my webcam is further to the right than everything else because I have like a weird 3:4 aspect ratio monitor, but I can't put the chat over there. Ugh. I'm going to keep trying to maximize OBS like that. Yeah, well, this is going to work good enough. I'm going to move it as far right as possible. Okay, that's good enough. Didn't I just put this always on top? There we go. Okay. Let's get back to work. So I think I copied the line that I want to use. And for a linear search, we had this. Now we're going to do IXL. I still want to create that somehow. So IXL is IX plus IKX. And then similarly for Y. And then we're not going to compare it to this. We're going to compare it to the kernel. K's, which is IKX, IKY, and IK. I think I got those right because this is X by Y by 4. And then this is X by Y by 4. So I think I have those indices in the correct order. For us, you can just tell OBS not to... Oh. But if OBS doesn't capture itself, then how does it capture the chat? Maybe it has per doc settings. I'll try to figure that out later. I don't want to get too distracted here. Is that it? I think this might be it. Let's see if that runs. Not quite. 157. Some kind of problem. In. For something in. That's how loops work. Ooh. Oh, right. I have to do bounds checking. Because the kernel could like go past the edge of the word search. So if it overflows, you don't want to try accessing this. I think that should help. 18. Oh, I got 0. That's not good. Gotta ask, what is syntran? Syntran is my language. Yeah, I don't think 0 is right. I must have missed. Oh, it's the wildcards. Yeah, I have to let the wildcards do anything. Anyway, what is syntran? I was going to give a slightly more in-depth answer to that. I have something called Syntran Explorer, where you can go to this website and play around with syntran without installing anything locally. 0 is false. I do not have integer to Boolean casting. That's like one of the worst things that I hate about C. Overall, I think C is a pretty good language, but that int to Boolean casting, I still don't remember which one is which. Is 0 true or is 0 false? Because 0 is success, but I think 0 is false. Usually true means success and false means failure. If you have functions that return Booleans, 0 is false. Okay. I don't know if you're joking or not. Anyway, yeah, you can play around with Syntran Explorer here, and you can do for loops. You can do simple samples like hello world, and then you can do more moderately complex stuff like see how multi-rank arrays work. Like we have a 2D grid here, which has it's 3 by 4. It's 3 in one direction and 4 in the other direction, and then you can take slices of this in each dimension. This is perfect for grid problems like you get in Advent of Code all the time. So yeah, I dropped this link a minute ago, but for the new viewer, I'll drop that again. I think. Yeah, that doesn't do anything. I think links just takes you to my website, but yeah, for Syntran Explorer, I need to add some kind of command to get you there. Okay, so wildcards should do anything. Let's have like a helper variable here. The character from the kernel is going to be CK. And then, or if CK is the wild card, no, and CK is not the wild card, then we break. So I had to invert what I just wrote there and use De Morgan's law. I think that should be better. Hoping for, it's still 0. Does this do anything? Okay. Dot. If the characters don't match and the kernel character is not a wild card. Did I get this logic correct? Because if it's anything but a wild card, we should break. Is this math correct? Or, yeah, I was thinking about that. Should it be or instead of and? Still 0. Oh, I didn't add. I never added to my sum. That'll do it. So this is kind of funny. This is not really the way that this should work, but I'm going to just extend what we did for part 1 here. So this is what I did for part 1. So if we've searched the whole 2D kernel and we got to the end of it without breaking out of the loop at all, then we can increment the sum. I kind of just tacked this on at the end of part 1. Really, it should be outside of this double loop, but then I need to have some other Boolean that tells me that I have a match. That's probably a better way to do this, but I'm just going to extend what we had in part 1. So if IKX and IKY is the end, then we can increment the sum. Please don't be 0. That something, was that correct? Oh, that's not correct. 21 is indeed a number. It's not even a multiple. Yeah, 21 is not a multiple of 9. It is a multiple of 3. Do I have an extra loop that's just iterating 3 times? Break. Yeah, breaking is not right here. I think I need a Boolean. I need a Boolean anyway to keep track if I have a match or not. So it's because we have a double for loop here. Now, in the first part, we only had a single for loop, so breaks just kind of worked. But now it doesn't work. Match. I don't know why that highlighted. I guess that's a keyword in Rust. So we're going to assume that we have a match, and it's match underscore. Yeah, this is just getting hackier and hackier. But I'm confident that I can still make it work. And then don't do that, but finally, if match, then sum plus equals 1. Please be greater than 0 and please be less than 21. That's not valid syntran. Hey, there we go. Okay, will that work with the real input? Yeah, feel free to share your solution. If you have a link or something, you can just drop that now. And maybe I'll open it, but not really look at it just yet. I'll look at it after I get this confirmed. Part 2, 1952. Let's find out if that's right. All right, not too bad. Had a little bit of trouble in part 2 there, but yeah. I don't remember how it compares to last year. I don't remember what the first 4 days were like. I just remember day 5 suddenly got difficult last year. All right, matrix craft. Let's see your solution. Go. I don't know if I should learn Go. Current address. That's not. Here we go. Rule. Is this part 1? This is both parts. Okay, so these are your directions. I had something like that. Oh, transform input. No. Yeah, I'm thinking transform as in a rotation, but I don't think that's part 2. Okay, scroll further down then. Target A. Oh, you look for the A in the middle. That simplifies things. And then you only have to go 1 in each direction. Is Xedmus. So this does all the work. Yep, I was thinking I might need to make a function sort of similar to what this is doing, I guess. But then once I combined all of my 4 k variables into a single variable with just an extra rank, I decided to not go with the function idea. But it's still probably cleaner to have a function. The problem is you have all these arguments. It's not really a problem yet. It's not that many arguments, but you have to know the initial x and y locations, and then you have to know the input and the rule. I think your rule is kind of similar to my kernel. Input. Oh. Range. I don't know if I know enough Go to understand this. If letter is X. Oh, because it can be anything but X? And then you have like a permutation of the corners where the opposite corners have to be two different letters. Is that what this is doing? I'm not really confident in my Go comprehension. Yeah. Oh yeah, that is clever. All right, I think I'm going to commit what I have. I don't need to log this every time. Let's get a little extra white space in there to make that readable. I'm new to Go. Oh, yeah. Advent of Code is good for learning new languages. Although I feel like the first few days would actually be hard because you have to learn how to do just basic stuff like string processing and how to read a file. Hopefully that's not too hard in modern languages like Go, but it's kind of a pain in Fortran. This is part 2. I checked my grid minus the first and last row and column, so it's, oh yeah, always in bounds. Look for an A and then check the corners. Oh wait, we got, is this the same link? We got 2 different links here. I didn't realize that both of you had submitted links. GD. Oh, is this Godot? I think GD is Godot. Because New Joker mentioned a line number, and then I scroll down to that line number in Matrix's code. But I think the 2 of you, it sounds like you both took similar approaches. Yeah, you both looked for the A and then went to the corners. I started from the corner and then looked three characters away in the opposite corner. I feel like it does simplify things if you start in the middle and then only have to go 1 character away in any direction. Yep. Yeah, you guys are both searching for the A. And then there are only 4 of them. It was kind of an overkill to have kernels like I did because you're only looking for 4 characters. So it's better to just have 4 different lines of code here than to have like a whole framework to search a two-dimensional kernel. Yep, nice ideas. I think I have extra logging. Oh yeah, and this is in part 2, but this doesn't do anything in part 2. Which one is part 2? I get lost and forget whether I'm in part 1 or part 2. Yeah, so I don't really need to log this stuff. And I'll leave that in there for now. Does that still run? So we got 2644 and 1952. Are those the answers that I submitted? Two 644 1952. Okay. I'll put this in a comment for myself for when I make a unit test out of this. Okay, I don't need that. Day 4. I think that's it. I'll wrap up the stream in a few minutes. Just make sure that that pushed. I also cleaned up my solution from yesterday a little bit. Maybe I'll quickly go over that. Okay, so this is day 4. Got a bunch of input, and then this is the actual code. It looks like, I think MatrixCraft had this for part 1 as well. I don't remember if New Joker did. I pushed the input as well. Because everybody's input is different. And, well, I don't know. Yeah, everybody's input is different, but I want people to be able to download this and run it. And if they don't have any input at all, then they can't really run it. Maybe you could just comment out this line and use the test input instead. So I do like to commit the inputs. Otherwise, it's hard to run the code if it doesn't have the data to go along with the code. It is very green. Still though, it's only like a couple kilobytes. Separate file. Yeah, I do at least have a separate file. Like how big is this input? 20 kilobytes. At least it's not a megabyte. GitHub is free. I do kind of worry about how much bandwidth it takes up to have however many thousands of people are doing admin of code all push like a 20 kilobyte file to GitHub. It's a little bit of a waste, but it's really not that big. Think of how many like duplicate Microsoft Word documents that are megabytes people are wasting on OneDrive and Dropbox. Oh, it's not recommended from AOC. I don't know if I saw that part in the rules. Is that in there? Is that in their FAQ? I think they have a FAQ or something about. Does it say anything about push git? Yeah, I'm curious what they say about not pushing this or whatever. Commit. Share. Like I know they don't want you to cheat, so having somebody else's input wouldn't help you cheat. Having somebody's code, you could use that to cheat. So I think they have stuff about here like if you're competing in the global leaderboard, please don't live stream when you like get the solution in 5 minutes, because then anybody who's watching can get your code and also get the solution in 5 or 6 minutes. Yeah, don't use AI. That's the big thing. And everybody just ignores that because look at the leaderboards this year. Day 4. People are getting this in 1 minute. That's not that suspicious. Oh yeah, I didn't really search for input. Go back to the FAQ. Input. Make sure you have the input. Huh. Yeah. Please don't include... I did not realize that. Kind of correct, but was it day one? I thought there was something highly suspicious for day one. Maybe they got banned and they're not listed anymore. Per day. Yeah, 9 seconds. Like, how do you even read the problem in 9 seconds? That's clearly cheating. I was thinking, like I was surprised when I looked at day 4 and I didn't see something that was like 10 seconds or 20 seconds. A minute is arguably plausible, but like I'm kind of surprised this guy's not banned and removed from the leaderboard or something. Anyway, I don't really care. What do you get for winning? Like, you get maybe a job interview. There's nothing really official. It's just bragging rights. We just have skill issues. I do have a skill issue. Like, I was streaming here, I don't know, almost an hour, maybe even more than an hour before I finally got today. That's okay. Yeah, so maybe I should go back and delete all my inputs. I don't know what to do about that. Okay, I pushed. I looked at everybody else's solutions. Yeah, I think that might be it for today. I'm going to find some people to raid. So let's see who else is on Twitch. Maybe I'll keep that tab open. I don't know why I opened my chat twice. Just forgot that I already had chat open. Raid. Yeah, I'll see if anybody else is doing. Oh, Nan might be doing Advent of Code.
3-4.
Looks like she's watching YouTube. Ads.
This is a nightmare.
She was doing Advent of Code earlier today. So who else? Funi. She's working on games. Yeah, I think I'll raid Nan. What? The ad was gone, and then the ad came back as soon as I switched back into the tab. Anyway, I'm going to start the raid here before everybody gets bored and stops watching. Non-codes. Raid. Okay, thanks everybody who tuned in. I will catch you next time. Bye.
Synchrony Bank with their great rates and no. Like it's traversing a 2D matrix diagonally is not something I do on a regular basis. But how is day 4 for you? You have ads? Damn. I need to fix that. Okay, shout out to Jeff, everyone. Give Jeff a follow. Jeff is also an advent of coder. Yes, I'm starting day 4 right now, but I'm reaching a hurdle with the. Oh, it took you longer. My school exams are pretty cracked. By the way, to be honest, I love my teammates.
And just like a drug, you need it to even feel normally. Level 7, elite code. You are now in.
I need to get to level 7. Okay, level 7.
Fast program. You exude a potent unholy buzz. A complex blend of energy drink sweat and 3 days old pizza bits. Rumor has it, this aroma keeps the bugs out of your throat. Your diet consists of mainly energy drinks and Cheetos, which leaves a distinct orange
Ew.
on both your fingers and your keyboard, forming a protective coding crust. You can't remember the last time.
Hello there, new Joker.
And you're starting to think that maybe they would
How is day 4 for you? Day 4. I'm on day 4, and I'm kind of.
down below, or you can hit this video if you want to see.
I just finished day 3 and part of day 2 today, and now I'm trying.